You know that feeling when someone you cared about just walked away and you're left wondering if they even think about you anymore, if they miss what you had together. Here's something most people don't realize. The way you handle someone leaving your life determines everything about how they'll remember you. Most guys make the same critical mistake when a relationship ends. They chase, they beg, they try to convince her why she should stay. And in doing that, they actually push her further away and make themselves completely forgettable. But there's another way, a way that plants seeds in her mind that will grow into something she can't ignore. If you want her to feel the weight of losing you, you have to do something that goes against every instinct you have. You have to disappear completely, not just physically, but emotionally too. No texts checking how she's doing, no social media stalking, no showing up at places you know she'll be. Complete radio silence. Think about it. When someone is always available, always trying to get your attention, always there, they become background noise. But when someone who was always there suddenly isn't, that absence becomes deafening. The space they used to fill becomes impossible to ignore. Here's what happens in her mind during those first few days of silence. At first, she might feel relieved. Finally, some space to breathe, to think, to be herself, without having to consider your feelings. She might even tell her friends she's glad you're giving her space. But then, something shifts. Day 3, maybe day 4, she checks her phone, expecting to see your name. Nothing. She scrolls through her messages, double-checking she didn't miss anything. Still nothing. And for the first time since you stopped reaching out, she starts to wonder. Where are you? What are you doing? Are you thinking about her? This is where most people misunderstand how attraction and longing actually work. We don't miss what's constantly in front of us. We miss what's absent. We crave what we can't have. When you remove yourself completely, you transform from someone she's trying to get away from into someone she's wondering about. But here's the crucial part that most people get wrong. This isn't about playing games or manipulating her emotions. This is about genuine self-respect and understanding your own worth. When you chase someone who's walking away, you're telling them and yourself that you believe they're more valuable than you are, that your happiness depends on their approval. Real disappearance means focusing entirely on yourself, not as a strategy to get her back, but because you recognize that you were probably neglecting yourself while trying to make the relationship work. You were probably so focused on her needs, her happiness, her problems, that you forgot about your own growth. So you use this time to become someone you're genuinely proud of. You hit the gym not because you want her to see your progress, but because you want to feel strong. You pursue hobbies you abandoned. You reconnect with friends you neglected. You work on projects that excite you. You become so engaged with your own life that thoughts of her become less frequent, less desperate, less consuming. And here's what's happening on her end during this transformation. She starts noticing your absence in ways she didn't expect. Maybe she sees something funny and her first instinct is to send it to you, but then she remembers you're not talking anymore. Maybe she has a bad day and realizes you were the person she used to vent to. Maybe she hears a song that reminds her of a good memory you shared. These little moments of missing you start adding up. They create a narrative in her mind where you weren't just someone she needed space from, but someone who actually added value to her life, someone whose presence she took for granted. The power of true disappearance is that it forces people to confront what they actually lost, not what they thought they wanted to get rid of. When you were constantly available, she could focus on everything that annoyed her about the relationship. But when you're gone, those irritations fade and the good memories become more prominent. But remember, this only works if your disappearance is authentic. If you're sitting at home obsessing over her, checking her social media, asking mutual friends about her, you're not really gone. You're just physically absent while being emotionally desperate. And somehow, people can sense that energy even from a distance. True disappearance means you're building a life that's so fulfilling that whether she comes back or not becomes secondary to the person you're becoming. You're not waiting by the phone. You're not planning what you'll say if she reaches out. You're genuinely busy living your life. This might seem counterintuitive. How can not caring make her care more? Because when you stop making her the center of your universe, you become more interesting. Mystery is attractive. Independence is attractive. Someone who has their own life, their own goals, their own sense of purpose, that's someone worth wanting. And if she does reach out, which often happens once the silence has lasted long enough for her to truly feel your absence, you respond from a place of strength, not desperation. You're not angry that she left. You're not trying to punish her for the time apart. You're genuinely curious about her life while being completely content with your own. This is the difference between disappearing as a manipulation tactic and disappearing as an act of self-respect. One comes from weakness and desperation. the other comes from strength and self-worth. People can feel the difference even through a text message. The pain she feels from losing you isn't about the games you play or the strategies you employ. It's about recognizing that she lost someone who valued themselves enough to walk away when they weren't being valued in return. Someone who had enough self-respect to focus on their own growth instead of chasing someone who didn't want to be caught. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for someone, and for yourself, is to give them exactly what they asked for. If they want space, give them infinite space. If they want freedom, give them complete freedom, and use that same space and freedom to become the person you were meant to be before you got lost trying to be what someone else needed. The pain of losing you comes not from your absence, but from the realization of what your presence actually meant. And that realization only comes when the presence is truly, completely gone.